So the Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic trailer has been out for a bit now, and I've kind of decided to let the thoughts sink in before I did a proper video on it. I did live stream my reaction and my analysis of this, so if you want to see that, that is on my channel. But today I just kind of wanted to give my overall thoughts on what we've seen so far, and a couple of predictions in areas that interest me. So first off, the very first thing I want to talk about is the gameplay. By far, that is the thing that I was most interested in seeing. It's one of the things I was really concerned about at first. Like, from what I heard at PAX West, the gameplay was just, oh, grab Jackie's box crank thing, put it on the door, open it, go through a chase. It's pretty basic from what we heard from PAX, but that's because PAX was, well, it looked like it was the start of the game. It felt like a tutorial area. I was really questioning what the actual game would be like as a whole, and I was really hoping this trailer would shed some light on that. And it did. It did not disappoint. So first off, there's a couple of really obvious things I should call out right off the bat. You have minigames. Not surprising. Yeah, there's also in the demo you can like pull generators and stuff. So overall, it seems like some minigame, it would be like Ruin in a sense, just do these minigames at the course of the game. I'm unsure if this minigame specifically will be a one-off minigame or a recurring minigame, but considering how grand and dramatic this whole thing looks, I'm going to assume this is a one-off minigame, you only do once in the game. But I'm assuming that there will be some minigames that will happen more than once and get harder as you go through. You know, just like the puzzles in Ruin, how they got harder as the game went on. I'm assuming this will be the same case here. And I'm assuming there'll just be some extra puzzles like this one mixed into that as well. So yeah, some basic puzzles, and I'm assuming the thing I'm excited for, when you're doing these puzzles later on in the game, probably only later on in the game, because early on in the game you've got to get used to the puzzle itself, but later on in the game, there'll probably be enemies trying to kill you while you're doing this. Think of like that Roxy Raceway section in Ruin, where you had Nexus like right up behind you as you had to do the camera task while he was right there. Things like that is what I'm really excited for in terms of puzzle design. But aside from that, that's just puzzles. I was most interested in was the main game mechanics. What do you do to survive? Because I was a little bit disappointed with Ruin's survival mechanics. Let's just find the orange one. Obvious one. In Ruin, the main survival mechanic was just you go to a camera and you press a button and you're safe. Like, that's pretty much it in Ruin. You don't really do many survival challenges in that game, and I was really disappointed in that. It felt like the game didn't really have much of a threat in it, but this game seems to have a couple of mechanics so far. Not many, I haven't seen many so far, but we have seen very few. So first off, this is obviously a distraction mechanic. I'm sure I'll turn this off in case it comes to my microphone. But yes, you throw this little rat thing, and I'm assuming wherever it lands, it causes a noise or something, and it becomes a distraction. So similar to Ruin's like cameras, where you press a button on the camera and they move away, this will just be send them away from you, then walk past. When I first saw this in the trailer, my initial reaction was, I mean, I don't think I said this out in the video, but I was a little bit concerned about this, because I thought this would be boring on its own. It's like, if that's all you do, just throw a rat and then walk past, that would be a very threatless game. There wouldn't be much to do, I feel like. But in another shot, there is actually something else. And I am very unlikely to actually find the shot I'm talking about. Ah, here we go. In the background, you can see this thing. This is glowing red. This is definitely showing that you can press this. And if you've played like Poppy Playtime, you know what these things are, but they're real things. You push them, the characters say a voice. But that's kind of the thing, right? You push it, they make a sound. This is another distraction mechanic, except unlike the rats, this one will lure them to you rather than to where you throw something. And that's exciting. That reminds me of Security Breach's distraction mechanic. Now, the Security Breach did have it a little bit scuffed because I think the AI prioritized the distractions over you. That all you had to do was like break line of sight for a second and then just move to the distraction. But I do think that with a little bit of slightly better execution, which this game definitely will have, I think, this mechanic of luring them to a location that you're close to, it would be very compelling and very hard. It could be difficult to try and figure out. It might be a situation of wait till an enemy is like over to a specific area so you can hit the button and then run off somewhere else or something like that. I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of things you can... this is a lot more interesting, I feel like. Luring them to your location rather than to a location away from you. I just think that creates a lot more tension and time pressure and getting away. So this excites me. Now, in terms of dealing with threats, this is pretty much it. I also want to call out that these rat things, these are very much a disposable. I don't think you'll just have heaps of them. I think they'll just be a you grab them, throw them, or in like flat mode, you probably have like one inventory slot, you store it and then throw it later. But in VR, I think you just physically pick it up, and I think there's a limited amount you'd be able to pick up. This would probably only be available in certain sections, just like the other destruction mechanics. So some areas will be like this, and some will be like security breach. And I think that's interesting. I think that's good. And I hope there's a little bit more, but right now that's a good start. And considering that I was already decently okay with Ruin, this is definitely a step up, at least a little bit. I'm dragging on. Another thing I want to talk about is the other mechanics in this. So first off, this is Jackie's crank. That's probably what I'm going to call it. You grab this off Jackie's box at the start of the demo, and you put it in these things and open doors with them. There might be other things you do with this, but otherwise this might just be a recurring door opening mechanic. I hope we see something like in Five Nights at Chuck E. Cheese. If you've played that fan game, the version by Radiance. I know that in that fan game there'll be mega moments where you can like, gotta close the door in a threat, but it takes time to close the door. I really hope that that's how this works. I would love it if you had to get to an area and then you had to quickly like crank this to close the door behind you as well. I hope it's not just opening doors, but also allowing you to close them to protect yourself as well. I think that would be really interesting. Maybe it won't be like that, but that is my hope. I think that would be really cool. But this is one of the things you have on you. There's one other item you have on you as well, which is the data diver. If I can find it. It might be later on. Yeah, here it is. Now, if you saw the live stream, you would know that I was very, very interested in this. So this is the data diver. And you can use this at these computer terminals. Now, I want you to pay attention to it, to the data diver itself. There are 6 symbols here. And when you go to the computer terminal, both of these options have a symbol. This one has a diamond, this one has a star. And these are symbols on your data diver. They correlate to symbols on the data diver. I think how this is going to work, and this is the part that interests me most about the gameplay. This is my favorite part of the gameplay reveal. Everyone else is talking about H.E.L.P.E.R and how, like, law-breaking H.E.L.P.E.R is. He's not law-breaking at all, by the way. But I just am really interested in this on a mechanics perspective, because I think how this will work is you upgrade your data diver over the course of the game to get more symbols. And I hope it works like Security Breach's security passes. Because in Security Breach, you have a lot of security passes that you can get. Oh, security badges, sorry. You get a lot of security badges that you can get. And although a lot of them are for the story, some of them are actually optional, and that you can end up actually missing them. And I like that a lot, because that means there's a slight exploration mechanic. It's not only part of the main game of finding them, but then after you've gone through the main game, or as you're going through the main game, you can also explore to find more of them, which allows you to explore more areas. I hope that the data diver works similarly, where sure, these will be for the most part main story. Go to point A, from point A to point B, you need to have like the shield symbol to get there. So you have to go from point A to like a point C to get the shield symbol, and then you come back and now you can go through point A to point B because you have the shield. So I think that is probably how it's going to work. It's just blocks off areas until you have these symbols, which means you can, when you come back to the areas later on, you can go more places, or just in general unlocking areas to go through in the future, similar to Jackie's crank. But it would be really cool in my opinion if they followed in Security Breach's footsteps and made 1 or 2 of them like optional. You could miss them, and they're completely optional side objectives you can go for yourself. That allowed you to explore even more, because I love exploration video games. I'm a big fan of exploring, and I think the exploration mechanics in Five Nights at Freddy's games specifically works really, really well for like the lore hunting aspect. So I'd really love to see like some optional ones, and part of me actually thinks there will be, because even though you see the grid of 6 here, there's actually a space beneath it. It looks like it could store 3 more symbols. So I actually think that maybe these 6 are the main ones you do for the story, and this is either one really special one, or another grid of 3 special ones, or just something special here. I don't know what that something special will be. Maybe it won't be like this. Maybe it'll be something else entirely. But I'm sure that this section here will be something special will be displayed here. And I hope that one of these things, will end up being an optional objective to open up more exploration opportunities. And also, as a personal hope of mine, if you've ever played Bendy in the Ink Machine, you end up getting this object. I forgot what it is. It's some sort of magnifying glass thing, and you can use it to see things. So you kind of like when you beat the game, you can go back to the start of the game with that item, and you end up being able to find all sorts of lore bits and all sorts of other things in earlier chapters. I hope that in this game, you'll be able to go back, once you've unlocked all the Data Diver stuff, you might be able to go back to earlier areas. But maybe not. That would be cool, but that's just the hope of mine. But if it's not like that, no big deal, because I think just this is a concept on its own is a pretty nice way to integrate like the security badge mechanic into this game. And the other thing I want to point out is, again, each of those options, each of those symbols open different options on the computer terminal. And the cool part about the computer terminal is this is area specific. So we're currently in the welcome show subterminal. So we have a reset welcome show, which obviously would only be at the welcome show one. So in other areas, you would not have the reset welcome show. You'd have something else here. And I'm assuming the same case is here as well, whatever the missing security access thing is, or executive access is. These are exclusive to this terminal. Each terminal will have different options with different symbols, the different requirements that do different things, which means there's going to be a lot of variety, I think, with the Data Diver and the computer terminals. So I'm really excited to see what all the different types of options are, and just what they can do, because I'm sure some of them will be like a distraction, some might be opening doors, some might be finding lore, which this looks like. I just think there's a lot that could be done with this in terms of gameplay variety, and I'm very excited to see more of it. And speaking of, this is a computer terminal. At 12 AM, this is a computer terminal at the start of the game. You can see this symbol where you put in the Data Diver. Or not symbol, but this socket where you can put in the Data Diver. And this is even the text here. You can't read it, but yeah, you can't read the screen, but that is text. This would be the text that says insert Data Diver. So this is what the computer terminal is in this area. And as you can see, there's this symbol here. This is actually the, what's it called? Murray's Costume Manor. This is the Murray's Costume Manor symbol, and that's not actually a symbol in the Data Diver. I want to call this out. The Data Diver does not have that symbol. So that could be either one of the optional symbols that appear here, or it could be something else entirely. But I'm certain it's something, because it's glowing. It's glowing like it's a gameplay mechanic, right? That's definitely something gameplay related. So this is either another symbol that you can get in the Data Diver later on, that you can come back for replayability purposes, and you put it in here, and if you have that symbol, then you can open this, or do whatever this is. Or this is an entirely new mechanic again, which is very, very interesting. Speaking of, this diamond is on the Data Diver. This is one of the Data Diver symbols. And this shape here is the same shape as this, as what is on this symbol over here. So I do think that these are showing Data Diver stuff. So this is the generator used to open this door, and these Data Divers do other things. There's just a lot I feel like will go into the Data Diver mechanic, and I'm not good at explaining myself. I'm not good at hyping things up. I'm not that kind of person. But I'm very sure this is something interesting, something new, and I'm very curious what this does, because this isn't opening the door. The generator is opening the door. So maybe once you go into this subterminal, you'll have an option to close this door, which could be used as a classic Five Nights at Freddy's thing, because that's the other thing. With all these computer terminals, this is a Five Nights at Freddy's game. There is gonna be a camera system. I mean, okay, look, I guess, I know, not all games in the franchise have them, but when you have a computer terminal, I'm sure there will be them, right? There will be cameras, there's computer terminals, which to me means that one of the symbols in the Data Diver will let you access the camera systems. I also want to call out that this one specifically is at the start of the game at 12 AM, so that is also interesting. Just this whole mechanic is just so intriguing to me. I don't know if it's intriguing to anyone else, but it's just interesting to me. So I really want to talk about all the things that this could be used for. This could be a survival section, right? Maybe this computer terminal will let you access camera systems. And then once you're in here, you can also press a different button to close this door to stop something from coming in. But then there also might be another entrance be off screen, like over here, because you don't really see to the right very clearly. There might be another entrance here or something. And you could like toggle the doors with the diamond symbol. And you'd have to like defend from all the entrances using the Data Diver on this section here to correct the cameras and switch the doors. I think this will be some sort of survival section. I talked about this again on the live stream. This looks like a sit and survive section. and I think it will all be based around accessing the computer terminal through the data diver. So I know I've said data diver a lot, but it's warranted. This mechanic is awesome. It looks great. This is just a minigame. By far, this is the craziest part of the trailer for me. Because not only is there the data diver, but again, H.E.L.P.E.R is like the other obvious thing here. This is also crazy. So I think I'm now done talking about gameplay mechanics, because that's kind of it, right? You got the data diver, which can do all sorts of different actions in the computer terminal, which will be unlocked over the course of the game. Each terminal does different things, and depending on what their symbols are, have different requirements which you unlock. And hopefully there'll be optional ones which encourage exploration. A pretty in-depth mechanic. But then there's also the distractions. Some of them you can throw the distraction away from you to lure them away so you can get past. Others will be luring them to you, which will be very, very scary. And in terms of gameplay, I think this is a step up from Ruin already. Definitely. And hopefully, step up from Security Breach. We'll see. And of course, the chase sequences. The chase sequences, even from the demo, from what we've heard, there's switches you need to pull during the Jackie chase sequence. So it's not just run forward, you actually have to do stuff during the chase, which is, again, another step up in terms of gameplay. This game, just honestly, in terms of gameplay, is probably going to be the best free roam one. I think it's going to be better than Ruin, I think it's going to be better than Security Breach. And that's saying something for me, because I actually liked Security Breach. So I'm sure that I'm going to enjoy this game, unless it's suddenly dramatically worse than I'm expecting it to be. Anyway, that's enough dragging on about gameplay. Let's talk about story implications, right? That's the part I think most people care about. But it's also the part that everyone's already talked about, which is why I kind of left it to later on in the video. H.E.L.P.E.R. Everyone's saying, oh no, H.E.L.P.E.R is predating Funtime Freddy. My response is, nuh-uh. So, H.E.L.P.E.R, sure, is a precursor to H.E.L.P.E.R, but as you can see, he seems to only exist on these screens. H.E.L.P.E.R, I'm assuming he'll act like H.E.L.P.E.R in the modern games, where it's a digital character. I could be wrong, but if H.E.L.P.E.R only appears on these screens, these are monochrome. This is not a white and pink design, because it's on a monochrome screen. So because of that, no. Funtime Freddy's white and pink color palette is not based off this design. If anything, I think what's happened here is H.E.L.P.E.R is the original character used on these screens. Then later on for sister location, like the Circus Babies location, they had Funtime Freddy, so they had a Funtime themed version of H.E.L.P.E.R, and that is what H.E.L.P.E.R is. Then later on, Fazbear Entertainment used a mixture of all sorts of old stuff, and so they brought back that Funtime version of H.E.L.P.E.R. The H.E.L.P.E.R, not the H.E.L.P.E.R, for the modern day. So yes, I do think, obviously this game takes place in 1979 as of the first teaser. Obviously this is the precursor to H.E.L.P.E.R, but I do not think that this is what inspired Funtime Freddy's palette. Just because there is no palette. So, I did just want to talk about that. The other thing I want to talk about is this is technically the only Freddy in this trailer. A lot of people have actually been complaining about this, that, oh no, there's no Freddy in the game. How can you call it Five Nights at Freddy's if there's no Freddy? Well, you are kind of staying at Freddy's is something. It doesn't say Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria, it just says Five Nights at Freddy's, right? And we're at Murray's Costume Manor. This is a location owned by Murray Co., as you saw from the Five Laps at Freddy's teaser? What do I call it? The upcoming update that Dorco showed off. So Murray's Costume Manor is owned by Murray Co., and Edwin Murray is a contractor for Fazbear Entertainment, so this is Five Nights at Freddy's contractor location, I guess. So in a roundabout way, this is still connected to Freddy still, and there's still a Freddy character here, and if you really want to be sad there's no Freddy animatronic, well, read the books, because in this entire story follows directly from Tales from the Pizzaplex the Mimic. Directly. This is about a person being sent in to retrieve the Mimic. And the ending of Tales from the Pizzaplex the Mimic is a team gets sent in to retrieve the Mimic and they die, after another team had already died trying to retrieve the Mimic. So that story showed that at that point in time, that story, Fazbear Entertainment is sending in teams of people to try and retrieve the Mimic and they keep dying. We just are one of those people, so that's directly connected to that story. And that story, Tales from the Pizzaplex the Mimic, that story, fun fact, it has Freddy. Edwin Murray was working on the Freddy's cast during that story, and Team B even describes the 4 main characters from the first game there. I mean, not specifically the first game versions, but, the characters. They describe Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy. So, those characters, canonically, are in this location at this time. So considering that Freddy is here during the events of this game, I'm willing to bet that he'll appear. There's no way he doesn't. I mean, if he really doesn't appear, then okay, you can complain if he doesn't appear because, as I said, he should be here. But considering the fact that he should be here, I'm assuming he will be. Because there's other characters that I mentioned in that story that appear here as well. Like the Jester, I believe. There's a Jester somewhere. Yeah, this shot. So that story mentions 2 different Jester suits. And in this part of this trailer, you can see a cutout for one of the Jester characters. And of course, if you've read through Tales from the P2Plex, you'll also see like a bunch of other characters from that series show up here as well. But like the mushrooms, like the big obvious one. Another thing I want to call out. The Mimic looks different. And so he should. Because in Tales from the P2Plex, when the Mimic is delivered to the P2Plex, it has a new shiny head because the old one, I guess, something happened to it. The fact it had to be replaced, clearly, because it's new and shiny. So, before the Mimic was sent to the P2Plex, it had a different head. Now, of course, the P2Plex isn't even constructed yet. So this is obviously before the events of the Mimic being sent there. This is way earlier, 1979. So of course the Mimic should have a different head, because it hasn't been replaced yet. This is the original Mimic head. So this does align with the books. Speaking of things aligning with the books, this factory does not align with the books. At all. This description just doesn't match. There's a lot of debate as to why, and my personal opinion, I just think it's an inconsistency. I think what's happened is Scott wanted a game set there, or Steelwool wanted a game set there, whoever made the decision. They wanted a game set here, and they decided, hey, the original description would kind of suck as a game location, so let's overwrite it. I think it's that simple. And you can't really say that, like, the story isn't canon, in my opinion, because this game follows directly from that story. So, it's... a lot of this is unexplained if it's not connected to that story. So even though the specifics might be contradicted and a lot of details will be contradicted, I do still think that story conceptually is canon. Even if that specifics aren't, I am pretty confident that the story is. Okay, my laptop just crapped itself, and personally, I'm having brain problems right now. My brain is definitely struggling. I don't know why, but I'm really, really struggling to talk at the moment. So just brush through this. I do think Dollie is a carnival nurse from H.E.L.P.E.R 2. And then the main reason why, aside from the obvious just similarities, this symbol. This symbol that's on her hat and her chest, yeah, it's on her hat too, is on the bag in H.E.L.P.E.R 2. So this is definitely connected. I do think that Dollie is the carnival nurse. So yeah, cool. The other call out I want to make is a voice that's speaking, which I won't play because I don't want to, have the speakers go through my mic. Is everyone's been calling out that this is HandUnit, and yep. In the original live stream, I somehow didn't pick up on the fact that this is Andy Field's voice. And yeah, it is. This is Andy Field's voice that's been speaking. And yes, this sounds like a more human HandUnit. And I do agree with everyone else who's saying it. I do think that this is the person whose HandUnit's voice was trained on in World. But here's an extra detail you probably didn't know. The character that gives you the briefing in this story, I mean, it's probably the same character who gave the briefings in the Tales of the P2Plex story, right? In Tales of the P2Plex The Mimic, there was a character who gave this same kind of briefing to Team B, and presumably Team A as well. So I'd assume that this is the same character briefing you just like the previous 2 teams, which means we have a name for original HandUnit, because that character is named. So HandUnit is named, the original voice of HandUnit is named Ron. Isn't that fun? We got Ralph for Phone Guy and Ron for HandUnit. Now all we gotta do is wait for Phone Dude to get relevant again. So I think the last thing I want to talk about... No, there's actually 2 more things I want to talk about. In terms of story, this fucker. So, I'm gonna be calling him Maestro Music Man. Maestro means master, and it's typically used in the respects of classical music, I believe. And he is very classical music themed. He has these gramophones as ears. Yep, gramophones as ears. And he has a jukebox as a mouth. This is what a jukebox, inside of a jukebox looks like, I think. I'm pretty sure anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe this is a jukebox mechanism. And he's got like the white hair that I always see in like classic orchestral performances. So this overall just feels very old music technology. So Screamings to me, Maestro Music Man just feels fitting. I like the name. If that's not his name, then okay, I'll just use a canon one later. But for now, it's Maestro Music Man in my heart. I think there's the next two things I want to call out because I keep remembering stuff. The Mimic's costume functionality. I do think that every character is the Mimic. I think Maestro Music Man is the Mimic. Everyone who says the Mimic can't turn into a spider has not read the books. I think because he kind of does do that in the books. Maybe not like this big, but he does turn to like a spider-like thing. I'm assuming this is the Mimic like going inside of Maestro Music Man and controlling from inside or something. I don't know, but I assume that this is the Mimic. Maybe it's not. Maybe this is an old version of Bouncer mode, I don't know. Look, okay, I could be wrong. But I'm at least confident in Jackie being the Mimic. Because of a render that was... Okay, it was on this, but I've loaded the video. Yeah, that's the Mimic's eyes. So Jackie is definitely the Mimic. The Mimic will be wearing all sorts of other costumes, like every mascot costume you see around here will probably be worn by the Mimic, or possible to be worn by the Mimic. Tigrock has a big emphasis, so I'm assuming Tigrock would be like the main boss or something. Boss form of the Mimic. That's obviously the Mimic. So no, the Mimic does not need bright orange eyes, because this is obviously the Mimic. So the eyes do not need to be visible. I don't know why people assumed it did, but yes, the Mimic can in fact wear costumes without being bright orange. I'm assuming then that Dollie is probably also the Mimic. Maybe she's not, but I'm going with that bet. I'm just betting it's all the Mimic. I think the Mimic is the only character. Because previously, in my previous theories video I did, like before anything was really revealed, I said that these will be all sorts of different animatronics, and there'll be different Mimics. I assume there'd be like a Mimic Model 2 line. But the problem with that theory is that those mass-produced Mimics were made by Fazbear Entertainment after retrieving the Mimic. And they haven't retrieved the Mimic yet, which means there's nothing mass-produced yet. Everything here is something made by Edwin. And I'm pretty sure the Mimic would be the only thing made by Edwin that would be dangerous. And that's purely because Edwin beat the shit out of it in the Mimic story. So, I'm not saying that the Mimic would be the only character, but I'm pretty sure the Mimic will be the only lethal character. So I'm pretty sure when you see things like Maestro Music Man here, who's obviously like coming down to attack you, I'm assuming that this is the Mimic doing that. In some way. Especially considering it even has the orange eyes too. Yeah, that's Mimic. Dollie is like the one that I'm most iffy on. Because if she is the carnival nurse, she might just be friendly. And if she's a friendly animatronic, she's probably not the Mimic. So, I'm very interested to see what her deal will end up being. I also heard a rumor, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but there could be a health system. That's something I have heard. Apparently in the VR version, multiple players have reported a, what's it called? A heart rate monitor for HP or something on your hands. But in flat mode, it's not here. It's not in this trailer. But a lot of people swear it was. And apparently there's posters. I'm not going to be able to find it because I'm bad at looking for these things. But one of these shots actually has a poster with that socket on the glove. So here's your actual glove in game. Never mind. Oh, yep, there it is. See, there's nothing really there, it's just a strap. Oh, is that it? Oh, that's way too small, I can't see that. Okay, well, somewhere in this trailer, I do believe that there is a slightly different design for the gloves that apparently more closely resembles what they looked like in the VR mode, according to other people playing. So one of two things, in my opinion. One of three things. One, people are misremembering. That could just be it, and this is just what it looks like. These gloves are just right. Two, the design changed. So people were remembering correctly, but it's no longer the case. And the reason why there's posters of the old designers because they haven't quite been changed yet. Or three, it is a case of it's a health bar system. And you can see your health in your gloves in VR. But in flat mode, they're missing because they're displayed in a heads-up display instead. If there is a health system in this game, if I load up the game and I see a health system, I'm pivoting on Dollie. Because she is for sure going to be a healing character if she's friendly. Like, if this is a game with a healing mechanic, with a nurse in it, she's probably going to be healing you in some way. That's my guess. Assuming that that is true, that there really is a HP system. If there isn't, and people are wrong, then whatever. She might be nice, she might be evil, we'll see. She might be nice, she might be evil anyway, honestly. Even if there is a HP system, there might be a chance that she's a Mimic. Imagine if you kind of had to see her, like if you were low on HP, and you had to go like up to her, call her in, and had to like gamble about whether or not she'd be haunted by the mimic, or controlled by the mimic, or the mimic using her or something. Could be interesting. Unsure, just throwing out ideas. Was there anything else I want to talk about? Yes, there was one more thing. One more thing I'm actually pretty excited for. This is actually a good note to end the video on, I think. Look at this elephant. The eyes are white and green, split in half. Look at this elephant. Stripey. These are different elephants. Meaning that some of the mascots are going to be recolors of other mascots. They aren't all going to be completely new models. Some of them will be recolors from each other. And we also know this because of a mushroom. Like we see a blue mushroom here, but then you see a figurine of a red mushroom. And in the books, there's a purple mushroom. So there's different colors of these characters. So it'll be different variants of each mascot, which I think is really cool. Which then begs the question, maybe, if the classics might be in the game, as I said before, I'm pretty sure they will be, because they should be here, somewhere, in the final game. Maybe we'll see recolors of those. Because honestly, I would be cheering if Freddy appeared in the game. Remember that dude from FNaF World? Hell yeah. If we're getting in random recolors for Secret of the Mimic, show me a Freddy. Speaking of the classics, something I probably should have touched on before when I mentioned them. I don't know what they'll be like. For me, it's kind of 50-50 between them being literally the classics from the first game, or maybe these are even earlier mascot versions. Now, personally, I would prefer them being earlier mascot costume versions, because that would feel more consistent for me. Because if they're earlier mascot costumes, then that would explain, like, the Edwin Henry inconsistency, right? A lot of people really didn't like the Tales of the Pizza Plex stories because Edwin made the classic animatronics. However, if the explanation is Edwin made old versions of that animatronics that didn't end up actually going used because the used ones end up being made by Henry, that solves it. Edwin made the original cast, but Henry made the original cast for us, in terms of ones that we see. That's what I hope is going to happen. If Edwin makes the classics, I'm going to be really, really confused. Like the actual ones we see in the first game, I'm going to be confused personally. Because as Henry says, small souls trapped in prisons of my making. So, yeah. That's my 2 cents on that. Another thing about the classics appearing. If the books wasn't good enough for you, H.E.L.P.E.R 2 has a mural on glass, which depicts first game Bonnie and first game Golden Freddy. It's Golden Freddy, not regular Freddy because it's too yellow. You see brown in the image. I hope they put the image up on screen. It might be low quality because I can't find a good image of it, but hopefully you can see it. It's yellow. You see brown on other places in the image. It's definitely lighter, so it's definitely a yellow color, not a brown color. And it's definitely Golden Freddy because the accessories are black and blend in with the background because it's black on like dark purple. If I remember correctly, it's black. The accessories on that mural are black. And because of that, they blend in a lot on the dark background of that poster. But if it was Freddy, then they'd be bright purple. But they're not. They're black. So it's a yellow bear with black accessories. That is Golden Freddy. Golden Freddy has been teased for this game, as has Bonnie, because remember, that update's for teasing this game. So yeah, I'm certain that the classics, either as the classics or as earlier mascot versions of them, will appear in this game. I mean, they're there in the books, they're teased in the update, it just should be here, man. But I'm just very, very interested in Golden Freddy. Because it was always my understanding that Golden Freddy was Freddy. That was my understanding. However, if that mural is to be believed, Golden Freddy might be a separate character. It might be an entirely separate costume. Or maybe it is... I mean, that's the other possibility too. Maybe Golden Freddy is like an alternate design for Freddy used at some point. I don't know. I've got to see how it appears in this game. But if it's already teased, I'm sure it will appear. But I've got to see exactly how it goes down. I've got to see if it's like an early mascot version or if it's a normal version. Alright, I think... Yeah, I'm just excited to see if there's any recalls from the classics. I'm very excited to see how they fit into this. I think that's everything. So I've covered the gameplay, and I covered lore in a complete mess because I suck at formatting my thoughts. Overall, my thoughts on the game, it's gonna be huge. I'm gonna love it, I think. The game looks like it has decent gameplay, so it looks like it will be fun. The atmosphere looks dreary, I love it. It looks great. It just looks fantastic. It's one of the best looking Final Fantasy games so far, in my opinion. The story is compelling. Like, I'm really happy to have like a decent story of we gotta find the Mimic, but hey, we probably do find the Mimic, we're probably the team that succeeds, or the guy that succeeds. But also, oh yes, I didn't talk about the story implication of that. Okay, I'm gonna go cover that too. The Mimic gets a busted head and is burnt by the time of Tales of the Pizza Plex is, by the time of the Pizza Plex era. I'm thinking we did one of those things in this game. We're either going to burn the Mimic in this game, or we're going to destroy its head. Either way, maybe both. But either way, I think we're gonna screw up the Mimic big time in this game. I mean, we're the guy who succeeds. The Mimic doesn't come back until the modern era where he gets, like, his parts replaced. And it is replaced modern day because those parts are new. The head's new at that Pizzaplex era. So, this really, before a massive time skip, is the last time the Mimic is seen. I think we're messing this dude up. We're retrieving the Mimic in pieces. So, that I'm excited for. I'm excited to see that. Because I'm not very confident. I'm pretty sure that's the direction it's going to lean in. I think we may be one guy. Which, by the way, that's weird. The previous two teams were whole teams that were one guy. A lot of people are saying you might be Henry or William because one guy implies importance, but Ron clearly talks to us as if we're an employee, not his boss, so we're probably just an employee. But anyway, one guy sent in, and we're one guy who probably does some serious damage, and I'm really excited to see what we end up doing in this game. So yeah, story-wise, it seems like the story is going to be sick. We're going to learn about the Mimic, get the Mimic entirely recontextualized. Probably double meaning in the title probably means that Mick will do some other recontextualizing. I didn't expend that much on this video, I don't want to keep it dragging this out. Game looks great. This game has the possibility to be one of the best Five Nights at Freddy's games, I think. That is my concluding thoughts. Oh, and in terms of story, so the story could be cool, but the lore is going to be crazy. Just know it. It's going to expand on Nexus, it's going to expand on the Mimic, it's going to expand on, like, probably the origins of Fazbear Entertainment as well. This is probably the Fazbear Entertainment Origins game. And considering this is also the Carnival game, wherever that was confirmed, probably some Fall Fest lore. There's going to be a lot of lore at a lot of different places. This game is just going to be massive, I think, in terms of how cool it is. I think it's going to be a massive amount of excitement for me. Let me know in the comments if you've really reached this far. This is like an hour of recording. What you think of this game. Different thoughts, opinions, theories. I want to hear what you think. I'm so hyped up for Secret of the Mimic. I really am. I will be playing in VR when it comes out. Hopefully with better recording than when I played the H.E.L.P.E.R 2 update. But no matter what, I will be recording my reaction in VR when it comes out. And if it doesn't launch with VR, then I'll record it in flat mode. I'm not waiting for VR. I'm playing this day one. So, yeah, I'll excited to see you next time we get more news on this. See ya.